Good morning and welcome to the second and final day of the SULC and SU Ag Center's Cannabis Symposium. This morning we have wonderful sessions regarding hemp and also the understanding of our partnership with the Cannabis Health Equity Movement. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Ansel Rankins, who's our first presenter today. Dr. Rankins.
Good morning, everyone. Happy virtual meeting today. Once again, I'm Dr. Ansel Rankins. I am an Assistant Commissioner for the Office of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences. I would like to thank Marla Dickinson and the Southern University family for inviting me to speak to you today. Currently, we're going through a transition with personnel. Dr. Angela Gildry resigned recently from her position. She was our industrial hemp program coordinator. Angela recently accepted a position with USDA working on the hemp program at the national level. So we'll maintain a cooperative relationship with her here in Louisiana. We're in the process of filling the coordinator position and hope to have someone in place soon to pick up where Dr. Gildry left off. I'm gonna go ahead and proceed with my presentation. If there's any questions today that I cannot answer, I'll provide our contact information at the conclusion of our presentation. So I'll begin my talk by defining industrial hemp. Industrial hemp is defined means the plant cannabis, sativa L, and any part of that plant, including the seeds thereof and all derivatives, extracts, and cannabinoids, isomers, acids, salts of isomers, whether growing or not, with a delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, THC concentration of not more than 3% on a dry weight basis. THC is the primary intoxicating components of cannabis. Cannabis with the THC level exceeding 3% is considered marijuana, which remains a Schedule I controlled substance regulated by the DEA. So this slide, I'm just going to walk you through the industrial hemp program timeline. In 2014, the Farm Bill allowed for state-sponsored pilot programs and research on hemp to determine whether hemp farming would be beneficial for American agriculture. Louisiana did not participate in 2014. The 2018 Farm Bill expanded the 2014 Farm Bill by authorizing the production of hemp and removing it from the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency's list of controlled substances. This bill cleared the pathway for states and tribal lands to produce hemp on a commercial scale. Fast forward to 2019, Act 164 was passed by Louisiana legislature, legalizing the production of hemp in Louisiana, giving our department authority over hemp production, transportation, and processing. The Louisiana Department of Health Regulatory Authority over CBD products and product labeling, and ATC Regulatory Authority over retail businesses selling CBD products. Federal regulations and state law required our department to submit a state hemp plan to USDA. Regulations were developed as a requirement of the plan. The USDA interim final rule on hemp was published on October 2019 to give preliminary guidelines to states and program participants. As required by the hemp law, the state plan was submitted to and approved by the House and Senate Ag Committees in December of 2019. As required by state and federal regulations, Louisiana's plan was submitted to USDA for review and approval. After thorough federal review, USDA approved Louisiana's plan in December of 2019. Louisiana was the first state to have the hemp plan approved by USDA. In February of 2020, the state regulations on hemp were approved and published. And in February of 2020, LDAF began issuing licenses for participation in the program. The industrial hemp law was subsequently amended by Louisiana legislature in 2020 to harmonize Louisiana hemp law with federal regulations outlined in the interim federal rule on hemp. State regulations were also amended in 2020 to align with revised hemp law. After a lengthy public comment period from states, tribes, and program participants, USDA issued a final rule on hemp in January of 2021, and it became effective in March of 2021. The industrial hemp law was once again amended in the 2021 legislative session to harmonize with the regulations outlined in the final rule on hemp. Regulations are currently going through the amendment process to align with the revised hemp law. On this slide, it shows that basically we have three entities that are involved with hemp. These are the regulatory authorities from three agencies, which is our agency, the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry, the Louisiana Department of Health, and the Office of Alcohol and Tobacco Control. As you can see here, the cultivation, seed production, transportation, processing, and retail products for non-human consumption are all under the oversight of our agency, the Department of Agriculture. The Department of Health has oversight over processing for human consumption and retail products for human consumption. ATC, Alcohol, Tobacco and Control, has regulatory oversight for retail businesses, licenses, and permitting. So what's our role in industrial hemp? And that's the Department of Agriculture. So we have primary authority over the regulation, the licensing, the enforcement of the cultivation, processing, and transportation of hemp in Louisiana. The Industrial Hemp Law Revised Statute 3, sections 1461 through 1472 by Act 164 of the 2019 legislative session, and the Industrial Hemp Regulations, Louisiana Administrative Code 7, Part 13, sections 1301 through 1343, as well as our program policies and procedures. All right, let's talk about the general licensing procedures. First, if someone is interested in getting into the hemp business, they have to complete a license application. All of our applications are processed here in our Baton Rouge office through the Industrial Hemp Program. Applications are available on our website, and I'll provide that information later on in my presentation. The licenses must be renewed annually. They are $500 per license. And we're going to go through the license types here shortly. The applicant must be 18 years of age or older. The license will expire at the end of each calendar year. Renewals are due by November 30th each year. There is no deadline or cutoff for when we will stop taking applications. We will issue a license at any point during the year. Also, there's no set number of licensees that we will issue. Anyone who applies and meets the requirements will be issued a license. We will perform a state and federal background checks. We're looking at no felony conviction within the last 10 years, no drug-related misdemeanors within the last 2 years. You must submit an application, the background check reports, the required maps and documentation to our department for approval. If you're applying for multiple licenses, you must apply for each. Any changes to the application must be submitted to our office within writing, 15 days of the change. That would be changed in the growing process, the handling process, or the storage process of the material. We expect that you're going to have, or the licensees will have, a change at some point during the growing season. So there's a process for going about that. If there's a change in business ownership, we would need to know about that as well. A licensee cannot allow an unlicensed person not employed by them to grow, cultivate, or handle, store, or process under their license. So what does this mean? If you get a license and your neighbor says, hey, buddy, I acquired some seed and I know you have this piece of land and that's registered with LDAF, and can you just let me grow this on your property and see how it goes? The response should be no. That individual would need to get their own license. Let's talk about the type of licenses that we offer. There's basically 4 hemp licenses that we offer here. The seed producer, the grower processor, and the contract carrier are all licenses through our industrial hemp program. So our seed producer license, this is a license that will allow you to obtain live plants and seeds, grow hemp, both indoor and outdoor locations, produce and sell vegetative propagative materials such as transplants and seed, and transport the harvested crop. So if you're a person who is interested in producing transplants or growing seed to distribute to other growers in the state, this is the license that you're going to need. The grower license. This license will allow you to obtain live plants and seeds for planting, grow hemp in both indoor and outdoor locations, store harvested hemp material, dry chop or grind that material, and further processing of material. Of course, that would fall under LDH. And you can transport your material to the market. So this is a person or an entity that is going to purchase material from the seed producer, put the seeds or the transplants in the ground, and when they harvest, most likely their crop is going to go to a processor. Processor license. The processor is not allowed to process live plant material without additional license. They are authorized to process hemp into non-consumable products only. Processing of consumable products will fall under LDAH. Once again, that's Louisiana Department of Health. And that will go into effect on August 1st. You can possess, store, and market products. You can possess your own product with another license, of another licensee's hemp. You can possess their product and transport hemp and hemp products. Basically, you're taking biomass from the field and you're doing something with it. You can also be a custom harvester. You can go to another licensee's property. You can harvest their material from them and take it back to your facility, dry chop or grind it for them. And then finally, you have the contract carrier license. This license authorizes the licensee to transport other licensees' hemp for compensation. So if you are a trucking company, for example, and you want to provide a third-party service to a grower who has no way to transport their material to a processor, this is where this license will come into play. The license will be replaced by the new handler license in 2022. Again, there's no limit to how many licenses you could have. it's conceivable that a person could be a grower and a processor. So if you want to grow and do your own processing on your own material, you will need a grower's license and a processor's license. If that's the case, you would need to fill out an application for both. So what's the relationship between the 4 licenses that I've covered here? So seed producers, growers, and a processor all must start with a legal source of hemp, which is hemp is defined with 3% total THC. A legal source of hemp or a legal source of seed is supposed to be tested. Before you can bring seed into our state, you would have to produce a certificate of analysis showing us what the THC concentration is from that parent material. When the grower gets ready to harvest, before they harvest, we come out to pull a sample. We're going to analyze at our lab for THC. If it's produced in Louisiana, before it can get to the processor, we have to test. If the processor is pulling material from another state, it's their responsibility to make sure that that stuff meets the requirements for THC. The seed producer is going to grow a crop and produce material for a grower. A grower is going to grow a crop and produce material for a processor. The contract carrier is going to work for the seed producer, the grower, or the processor carrying somebody else's material from point A to point B. So this is how the licensees are related to each other and work together in the program. All right, this next slide gives you a breakdown of the number of licenses that have been issued for each one of the licenses that we regulate. As you can see, we have 108 growers at this time, seed producer 18, contract carrier 37, and processor 16. So we've issued approximately 180 licenses to date. Compared to last year, the overall number of licensees increased just a little. Last year, I believe we only had, I guess the growers, we increased it by 10. So we're seeing some growth there. This is a map of where our licensees are located. As you can see, most are in the southern part of Louisiana, but we do have growers sporadic across the state. We had approximately 800 acres planted last year compared to just under 18 so far this year. And I want to make a point that there were several hundred acres attempted to be planted for fiber last year that ultimately failed. And we don't have any fiber production this year. That's one reason why we see a decrease in acreage. The other reason is growing hemp outdoors has proven to be quite a challenge. And so a lot of these outdoor growers that we saw last year are moving indoors into small square footage for their grows. That's the reason why we have such a small area planted this year for hemp. Of course, oversight is done here in Louisiana within our agency by the Agriculture, Chemistry, and Seed Commission. This slide shows the membership. We have 9 members on that commission that's represented across agriculture. This commission holds hearings to go over alleged violations of hemp, the hemp law and the regulations. And this commission is an advisory commission in nature, to where they advise the commission on civil penalties for violations for him to approve or to accept. So last year, it was the first year of the program. We issued that first license in February of 2020. We used last year to, mostly work with our producers on compliance assistance, and we did issue some warning letters to alleged violators, but we wanted to use that first year. A lot of people were new to the program, and we wanted to, get out and do a lot of outreach and just provide compliance assistance just to get the word out on how things are going to be, enforced and get our producers going. This year, however, we continue to provide compliance assistance. We have initiated hearings on alleged violations. We had a meeting on July 20th where we brought forth a couple cases. 3 cases actually were considered by the commission. Some of the typical violations that we see, possession of unimproved seed. Of course, seed has to be approved before you can, bring it into Louisiana. There's a process for that. Production, handling, and storing hemp in unapproved sites. Sites where hemp is stored and handled has to be accepted and approved with our agency. We have to know where those locations are. Failing to submit planning reports, which is a requirement for this program, and also producing hemp over the maximum THC threshold, over 3% THC. Those are some of the common violations or typical violations that we see in this program. So the USDA final rule earlier this year came out. It was effective March of 2021. A few highlights from that final rule. The rule basically extended the post-sampling harvest window from 15 days to 30 days. We're required to conduct performance-based sampling, only applicable to research production in Louisiana. Material may not enter the stream of commerce. They have set a threshold for negligent THC. Licensee can only receive 1 negligent violation in a year. So the 3%, 3 negligent violations in a 5-year period that would, if a grower or a licensee receives that many in a 5-year period, they will be out of the program for 5 years. The rule also mandated remediation methods for hot crops. Those are crops that are over the 3% THC limit there. Creates biomass of an entire hemp plant, removing the structural floor material while keeping the remainder of the plant material for marketing. Key participants are not required on the application. They're not subject to background checks. The rule also states the law enforcement is no longer required to observe destruction along with our agency. It also discussed research and how to address research in our state plan. Okay, so as a result of the final rule that came out and that's now in effect, some things that came out of the 21, we basically had to go in and amend our law based on the final rule. So during the 2021 legislative session, some of the things that came out of that, human consumption of hemp and CBD products moves to the Louisiana Department of Health. Currently, we're issuing licenses for processors, and some of those processes have oversight by LDH from some activities. There were some activities that were somewhat in the gray area, and nobody was regulating them. And as of 2021, as of the 2021 legislative session, and of that human consumption details as to what constitutes human consumption, that's all going to be regulated in licenses issued by LDAF. So those 37 licensees that you saw there on the previous slide, they were issued to processors this year. Probably 100% of those will go to the Department of Health. Fiber and seed processors will remain under our authority. We made some amendments to the hemp law to comply with the USDA final rule, those things that I mentioned prior. We have removed the contracted carrier license and instead added the handler license. And the handler license will authorize someone to transport, so be a contract carrier, do commercial harvest for other growers, clean package or broker seed, or even test hemp. Should we have a third-party lab who wants to test hemp? So a few other things that came out of the session, the University of Louisiana Monroe Ag Business Program is going to be 100% exempt, just like LSU and Southern, from hemp research. We have a requirement to put together a framework for other entities to do research. So any other university or private entity wanting to do research, we have to put together a framework to get that done as part of our regulations going forward. LSU has been authorized to develop a centralized hemp website, which is going to pull information from our department. It's also going to pull information together from the Department of Health, the Office of Alcohol and Tobacco Control, Department of Revenue, Southern University, and other universities doing research and industry associations. So it's going to be a one-stop shop where people can basically go to that site in the hemp industry for hemp industry information here in Louisiana. Right now, we get most of those questions by default, and we have to send them to other agencies for the most part. So another big thing coming out of the session is the Department of Health is going to provide guidelines for licensing, packaging, labeling, and sale of floor hemp material. So of that 17.82 acres planted that I mentioned earlier, the majority that is grown for flower, and to be able to sell that flower on the shelf to consumers, of course, not for inhalation. So what have been some of our regulatory challenges? Of course, our producers have experienced challenges with the FSA lot ID, which is a federal requirement. New producers are challenged with obtaining this information. No experience in working with FSA. The department is routinely working with FSA on behalf of our producers. Other challenges are the THC concentration levels, 0.3% total THC concentration. And then the regulation requirements, background checks and intense reporting requirements that are all mandated by USDA that have been passed down to the states to enforce. All right, so, we have a procedure for, basically, getting the license, and I'll just cover those here. So you have to complete and submit an application again. You have to request approval for seed acquisition. You have to file your planning reports, and you have to request a pre-harvest THC sample collected by our field inspectors. In addition to that, hemp plots with hot samples must be remediated or destroyed, and hemp plots with compliant samples are free to the market. This next slide shows you crop destruction. Of course, if anything is over the 0.3% THC, the crop has to be destroyed using an approved method by USDA and by our department. So there's been some production challenges, of course, with this program, seed acquisition being one, or poor variety adaptation for Louisiana's environment. Shortage of seed producers in the state. Some challenges finding reputable out-of-state suppliers. Local hemp research has to catch up with our industry. Some challenges in year twos. Some of the same challenges that we saw in year one. Outdoor hemp production has proven to be quite the challenge. Again, between weather and disease is a big problem for this crop. We're too humid. The soils are too wet. We don't have enough daylight for the most part for this plant. I want to make the point that there were several hundred acres attempted to be planted, and for fiber especially, and it just didn't do well. So a lot of these outdoor growers that we saw last year are moving indoors to small square footage for their grows. That's the reason why we have such a small area planted this year for hemp. Varieties and strand selection continue to be a problem because most of these materials developed for climates not like Louisiana. And these licensees experience issues with the reporting requirements. Again, we had approximately 800 acres planted last year. We're up to only 18 so far this year. This photo depicts premature flowering due to insufficient daylight hours. Hemp seed, of course, is an issue. Both certified and non-certified seed are out there in the marketplace. Certified seed should be the first choice, obviously, for hemp growers. Seed certification preserves the genetic purity. Low quality, non-certified hemp seed will likely suffer from poor performance, stand vigor, and allow weeds to produce, which will produce a lower yield for our producers. Non-certified varieties may be a genetic soup of farmer-saved seed varieties and could cause the resulting crop to have a large percentage of male plants, which greatly affect yield. Non-certified seed may also produce a crop that tests over the legal limit for THC, even if the supplier has a certificate of analysis that claim the variety is compliant. Producers can vet unreputable seed producers by asking certain questions. They can ask the name of the variety. How many years has the variety been in the marketplace? What is the germination rate of the lot you're selling? Do you have a current tag? Most states require tags with their certified seeds. With germ tests within the last 6 months. Is the variety legal to grow in my state? And did the seed legally enter the country with a phytosanitary certificate, which is required by USDA? The search remains for varieties that are good for Louisiana's environment. This next slide, just some common disease issues that we see here with our hemp crop. Several fungal diseases, including southern blight. Let's see. Some insects that are pretty common that we see here. You see things like the leaf-footed bugs, aphids, mites, cucumber beetles, and caterpillars. Many of these insects are very small, may not be visible without the aid of magnification. Infestation of mites can certainly reduce the plant's ability to thrive. And with severe infestations, they may cause premature defoliation of the crop, stunt the growth, which would lead to plant death. There are very few insecticides and miticides currently labeled for hemp, and that's been the challenge. And these products are awfully, when used, are marginally effective. So the best method of preventing serious crop loss is using, cultural practices or cultural controls. We also see a lot of weed pressures in the crop, similar to other crops when not properly managed here in Louisiana, particularly in our outdoor production areas. Poor site selection, obviously I mentioned early, this crop prefers certain conditions, and it just will not do well in certain, conditions. Damp, wet locations, obviously you will not get a crop, as far as field production is concerned. The photo on the left there shows the signage that's required for each location that's growing this material. This photo is a typical indoor growing operation, which you see, and this is probably about 80% of what we see out there. Metal buildings, really nice elaborate greenhouses, really good products coming from the indoor grow operations. The THC sampling that's done. We, of course, our inspectors, they are charged with collecting official samples. All the plots have to be sampled and tested, and those samples are, our field inspectors collect those samples from mature floral material randomly across the plot. The whole sample collection process is triggered by the harvest crop destruction report, which we have those reports on our website. Once we receive the report, we'll notify the licensee to schedule the sampling. The official samples collected by our agents, they cost $250 at the time of sampling. All growing sites and lots are sampled. Under the 2014 Farm Bill, this was optional. We don't have that luxury anymore here in Louisiana. It's in our law. And it was also part of the 2018 Farm Bill requirements by USDA that all lots be sampled. You have to harvest within 15 days of sampling. Of course, the new rule that came out, expanded that window. We don't have any way around this. If a licensee can't get it all harvested, they're required to contact our office. Of course, that will require us to go back out and pull another sample, which is another $250. Harvested means the biomass above the ground. It doesn't mean anything below the ground. So anything above the ground has to be harvested. The important thing to remember here is that the lots cannot be commingled. The process is not going to want it mixed anyway. They're going to want it separated. People ask sometimes, is there a limit on the number of lots they can have or they can grow? And the answer is no. There's no restrictions on the number of lots you can grow. You can grow as many as you want. Just know that we must collect $250 for each lot that we sample. So our field inspectors will collect the samples from the mature flower. Once the samples are collected, they become our property. If the lab results come back hot, meaning greater than 0.3% THC, we will allow the grower to resample. We will allow a resample at the licensee's request. They will have 10 days to tell us if they want to do that. And of course, it's a $250 charge, which would probably be worth it to that grower to have it resampled instead of losing their investment. Here's another photo of a hemp fiber production field. That's Dr. Angela Gildry there, the far left photo. Another photo of our production sites. Field and container production. I'm moving here a little fast because I'm out of time. Here's a photo of our hemp post-harvest drying facility, of one of our hemp post-harvest drying facility. Some other program highlights: new background check procedures for 2022. Louisiana State Police will apply for federal background checks on behalf of the applicants. Background check reports will be sent directly to our department from the State Police, and we will allow for electronic application filing. List of approved and prohibited hemp varieties and strands. We will monitor the department's hemp website for program updates. This is a graphic of our website. Of course, if you go to our website, you will find things such as our hemp law and regulations. You can get the licensee application on our webpage. You can get all the program forms required for the program. We have a frequently asked questions section that would help, that will assist most applicants with some of the common questions that we receive here. There's also links and resources, deadline, important dates of the program information. There's also a very helpful video for someone that's new to the program that you can video. It's an orientation video that we did back in 2019 that pretty much walk you through step by step all the requirements for the programs. It kind of takes a deep dive into the industrial hemp program for the state of Louisiana. So I encourage anyone that's interested in getting into the program to check that video out. It's 3 hours long, but it's there on our website. And of course, here's all our contact information listed here. It's also on our website as well. Feel free to reach out at any time. Give us a call, stop by. You can stop by our office here on Florida Boulevard here in Baton Rouge. We'd be more than happy to help or assist you with anything to get you going. That's all I have. If anyone has any questions, I'll entertain at this time.
Dr. Rankins, we have a few questions, but we only have like 4 minutes, so I probably can only get to 2 or 3. The first question is, can an entity obtain a grower's license if growing on leased lots? ?
On growing on leased lots, I would have to check on that. If whoever asked that question would give me a call, I'll be more than happy to get that answer for you.
Okay, the next one. Is a grower in Texas that processes in LA required to send laboratory samples to the state once the material is received by the processor? ?
Yes.
Okay. What is the time frame to get in your planning report? ?
That planning report, that information is located on our website. I don't have that in front of me, but there is a time frame to get that in. But that information is located on our website.
Okay, 2 more questions. Can USDA grant be used for industrial hemp? ?
So I'm not familiar with the grant that the individual asked. So I guess I would need more specific information. I know there are grants out there, but I'm not. I guess the question I'm not certain on what they're asking.
Okay, last and final question.
All
Is
right.
there a minimum/maximum amount of hemp an individual/company can transport under a handler's license? ?
No. There's no limit on the amount.
Okay, Dr. Rankins, look like we still have a half a minute. Let's see. Last question. Are sativa strains better for outdoor grows in the Louisiana climate? ?
That's hard to know. I mean, we have data on how certain strands have performed. We would need more specific information on what that individual is planning to, what variety that they are intending to grow, and we can assist them with that. They would just need to contact our office and we'd be happy to provide that information.
Okay, Dr. Rankins, well, that will conclude this presentation. We're out of time. I thank you so much for all the information, and you have a good day.
All right, thank you. Once again, call us if you have any questions. We'd be happy to help.